Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar, Knowing the Risks, a Roundup for Law Firms. So in terms of the timing for today's webinar, we have an hour together. There is also a handout that's being prepared for you to have alongside this webinar. Don't worry if you don't have it in front of you when you're listening. I will point to it at a couple of points through the presentation today, but it's really for you to sort of take away as your notes for this session. Now, who am I? My name is Rebecca Atkinson. Everybody calls me Bex. I was the General Counsel, Compliance Officer for Legal Practice, Money Laundering Reporting Officer, Money Laundering Compliance Officer, and Data Protection Officer for a law firm called Howard Kennedy in London. And I was there for 10 years. And I left there in earlier part of 2024, and I've set up my own practice, MacArthur Atkinson, advising on a whole breadth of risk and compliance matters, money laundering, SRA regulatory practice, cult reporting, any financial crime area, and so on. And as you'll see there on the slide as well, that I'm a qualified lawyer. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, now this is knowing your risks. This isn't covering every kind of risk that you'll find in your law firm, because if I was to do that, we would probably be here all day and you would have to listen to me all day, which you know you don't want to be doing. You want a short sort of snapshot of what's going on. So what I've done is I've just picked out some of the perhaps more prevalent risks that you need to think on a kind of a day-to-day basis. And these are as follows. These are things we're going to be going through. So first of all, continuing competency. So ensuring that your people know their area of expertise. And then I will go through a very light overview of the continuing competency regime, and the SRA are sort of ramping up their sort of review of the competency regime. And I'll explain that when we go through it. I'm then going to talk about service levels, what happens when it goes wrong, and how to handle a complaint effectively. Obviously, this is really important for various reasons, but the Legal Ombudsman is continually looking about improving complaints handling internally, so I thought we would go through that. I will then talk about professional indemnity risk, what to do when things go wrong. Then this is a bit of a chunky part of the webinar today, financial crime risk. We'll go through the high-level compliance principles in the legal sector affinity group guidance. Again, in quite a quick, fast pace, but I'll give you some comments as we go through. And then how you might approach sanctions, tax evasion, the new failure to prevent fraud, criminal offences coming in on the 1st of September 2025, and bribery risk. What steps can you take in your practice to prevent those things from happening, any of the sort of breaches of the legislation there? We will then talk about data breach risk, so when things accidentally get sent out of the firm, and how to mitigate that and what you might do. So just some top tips there. We will then talk about cyber risks, still really relevant, still prevalent in today's world. We've been talking about cyber risk for years and years. We'll go through the types of cyber risks that you may face and how you might mitigate those. And then I will talk about misconduct, how you might mitigate misconduct risk in your practice. And then we will spend a little bit of time going through the reporting obligations that solicitors, culps and coffers have, and how you analyse whether something is serious and needs to be reported. So we'll talk about the SRA enforcement strategy. And then finally, risks wouldn't be risks without talking about something to do with the accounts rules. The rule 3.3, the non-banking rule, is the one, in my experience, comes up the most often as something which is capable of being breached. So we'll talk about that rule, and we'll talk about what it means and how to avoid breaching it.